This is the You, Me, We Therapy podcast.
Hello, thank you for joining me. My name's Jackie and I'm a counsellor. You may hear me use terms like therapist too. Counsellor and therapist are terms I use interchangeably. For example, a counsellor delivers therapy. This is a space where we can look at accounts of emotional and mental and psychological resilience that pulled us through some really tough times. I think emotions are important. We can miss valuable learning when we overlook our emotions. Emotions bring about needs in us. And there can be patterns of neglecting these needs, pushing them aside, or not even knowing what to do with them. We can get twisted ideas around emotions, and maladaptive thoughts and behaviours can form that shape a presentation in our lives. As a counsellor, I find emotions interesting. They tell me something about a person or a situation. They tell me the whys and the hows. Emotion sheds light on future hopes and desires. And by introspection, a lot of growth can come from that. So there'll be different topics that I talk about here. We can also hold on to the negative side of these emotions in our subconscious, and it can really limit us with the things we do in our lives, the way we live our lives. So in this podcast towards the end, I'll also be doing an energy clearing. It's a chance to sit and listen and have a way of processing what's been spoken about and letting go of it. So we don't have to bring it into our futures. It's a choice. You may find that you want to jump ahead to that part if you find it interesting, but if you stick through the podcast, the clearing that I do at the end will link to the topic that we've talked about in the podcast. So following it all the way through, you may find beneficial.
This podcast is not a substitute for mental health support. If you find that you are needing mental health and mental well-being support, please seek out a professional practitioner. They should be licensed or qualified depending on the part of the world you are in. Some of the topics in this podcast may be triggering, so it's down to the listener's discretion as to how they gauge this suitable for their needs at this current time when they're listening to this, and when it's being shared with others.
Let's start this off by talking about esteem, low self-esteem. When your esteem's at a level that's balanced, then it's not an issue. But it becomes an issue when it can dip below a certain level. So how I like to see it, in my head, I like to hold images. Esteem, I can think of the word steam like a steam engine. If there's not enough steam, the power isn't going to be there to execute the thing that needs to be pushed along. It's not going to have the power. The right amount of steam's needed to get that machine moving. So self-esteem, I'm just playing on words here, how I hold it in my mind. The steam in which you've got of your own volition to get your needs met on a really deep emotional level. And there's a difference between confidence and self-esteem. Confidence versus self-esteem. Confidence, you can be confident in something. You could be a very confident dancer and have low self-esteem. Confidence can show in something external that you're very skilled at. You can put your hand to something, but actually at the end of the day, when you go home, you find that somebody may find that they're lonely and feel very have very low thoughts or an opinion of themselves, and to others they look confident, but underneath they have a low self-esteem. And I think it's important to differentiate the difference between confidence and low self-esteem. Somebody could have a very robust level of self-esteem but not feel very confident at something like cooking, for example. And then they may not take it to the extent where they berate themselves internally for not being able to cook a particular dish. So that's where I want to bring the examples between the difference between confidence and self-esteem. And with low self-esteem, it affects things like behaviors. When somebody's esteem is high, they are going to be more able to practice self-care. That self-care could involve healthy choices, the food they eat, whether they exercise, the level of sleep that they give themselves, and positive self-talk. The narrative that plays in their head when something goes wrong. Positive self-talk connected to a high self-esteem or a balanced self-esteem, and these are behaviors, whereas low self-esteem for behaviors, it can result in quick fixes. It can result in acting out for quick gratification. It could be often linked to promiscuity, for example. If somebody finds themselves jumping from partner to partner to partner, is an easy common link that to low self-esteem. It doesn't necessarily mean that everybody who does that has a low self-esteem, because it's somebody's choice how they want to express themselves through the physical sexual acts. There is a connection. It's always worth exploring. And a lack of self-care, a lack of being able to invest in yourself, be it spiritually or intellectually. You know, if you're somebody who could spend money on something external for yourself, but yet to take that same amount of money and invest it in a course or a program, that might be hard to consider investing in yourself in that way, because it's not necessarily something tangible. It's something that plays out in the long run. So it's also something to explore, if investing in yourself on a level that involves developing how you perceive yourself, things like therapy, personal development programs, personal coaching programs, meditation retreats, and things like this. These are ways that we invest in ourselves, and when people find ways to not do that, is that a form of low self-esteem? Because perhaps one may think they're not worth it. That's too expensive. I don't need to do that. A kind of pattern of thinking like that. It's just something to consider when it comes to esteem. Do you think you've got low self-esteem or high self-esteem? And with a low self-esteem, it can come with a sense that others can see right through you, that there's something incongruent about yourself, that another person can see your misgivings, your shortcomings, and judge you based on that, and judge you negatively. Whereas with a high self-esteem, it comes with, not giving a care really. It comes with perhaps being able to integrate your view of yourself and an external view of yourself that could come from another, and to be able to integrate the two together. So whereby there's a balance where you're not too bothered about what another person could perceive you as, yet you are interested in how your behavior affects others, so you can moderate yourself in a way. And I think with low self-esteem, what I've found helpful for people is to find the evidence. If you think your esteem is low, find the evidence that can prove the case of when you have done things well, and find ways to praise yourself, and just be aware of the narrative that you could be telling yourself. I like to think of it as a difference between faith and knowing. If you can lean towards faith and eventually let it grow into actually knowing. An example could be phrases you tell yourself. I'd say under the title of faith, phrases like I think so, I hope so, maybe. To me, that kind of comes from a place of having a faith in something. I think I can do that. I hope that works out. Maybe I know the answer to that. So it's having a faith. Now, knowing something is different. Knowing comes with phrases like definitely, of course, yes, no. So, for example, I like playing tennis. I like swimming. Can I make it across one end of the pool to the other? Definitely. I know I can. So my esteem on that level, I have evidence that I can, because I know I can. I can think back to times I have multiple times. I have the evidence to prove the case that I can. Therefore, I can stand in a knowing position and know that to be the case. These are methods that I like to hold in mind for myself and to find ways to, if it's suitable, to bring clients' attention to that too, because the difference between knowing something and having faith in something is really quite subtle. Sometimes this faith is all that we can grasp at, but there will be some things that can be better served if you then leap off the faith platform onto the knowing. You know this to be the case, and that can build on one's esteem. Low self-esteem is something that can be hidden really quite easily for some people, and then for some others it can be obvious. But I like to think of us building towards a world that's compassionate. And if I am aware that I am observing somebody in my presence that potentially could have a low self-esteem, I feel drawn in my heart to not make things worse for them, to want to find a way to make them feel comfortable, or at least not any more uncomfortable. Because it could be uncomfortable to be in a position of not quite having belief in yourself, or thinking that the world has something, you've missed out on the benefits of what the universe could give you, and somehow you're not quite good enough. If I get a sense that somebody's experiencing something like that, I have a lot of compassion for them. I want to help them not feel that way, and like I said, at the very least, not add to their discomfort. And with a high self-esteem or a balanced self-esteem, it can be contagious. It's good to be around others who have that level of esteem too, because it will show you ways of how you can do what they do. It can rub off from one person and positively infect another person. Many of these things start from childhood. It's important that we encourage and we build up our children to have a really balanced self-esteem. It's as important as making sure they eat their fruit, their vegetables, they drink water, they exercise, they get fresh air. All these things help to build a rounded individual. Self-esteem is such a personal area in one's character, and it can be deeply linked to the shadow side as well, things about us that we don't like, that we don't want to show others and feel negatively about. And it can easily, for some, become a spiral downwards to a place of rock bottom where they feel less than. And when in that position, it can lead into other mental health problems, depression, anxiety, at its worst, suicidal ideation or suicidal plans, or somebody who would act it out. Really being able to convince somebody who is that low that they are worth it takes time and patience. And like I said, it's a very private area in someone's life. Vulnerability is tough if you're not ready to let another person in. It does take time. But with high self-esteem, so much can be achieved. And like I said earlier, there is a difference between confidence and self-esteem, but they are really intrinsically linked. You're more likely to be confident at things with a high self-esteem. As the saying goes, without confidence, you are twice defeated.
Now we're going to do a clearing. So find yourself in a comfortable position, either sitting or lying down. If you're sitting, have your back upright against something that's comfortable and have your feet flat on the floor. And if you're laying down, perhaps you'd like to lay on your back and be comfortable. We're going to take 3 deep breaths. We're going to breathe all the way in. Take a deep breath in, and then one more pull, and then release all the way out. We're going to do this 2 more times. Take a deep breath in, one more pull, and then release all the way out. And let's do that one more time. This is just a way to get your body prepared and relaxed. In and out. Now, there's many versions of us. If you think of time in this sense, there's a past, there's a present, and there's a future. So let's say there's 2 versions of you, for example. There's a higher being, and there's a version of you now. Imagine a scene like this, a mountaintop, and you're standing at the top of this mountain, and you can see the view as far as you can see. Imagine there's a version of you down at the foot of the mountain in a wooded area. The wood has rocks and boulders and logs in your way. And at that level, all you can see are the obstacles that are in front of you. The version of you that stands on top of the mountain can see a clearing ahead and can direct the version of you that's down there in the woods how to get to that clearing. From the position you are on the ground in the woods, you won't be able to see it from that position. So it's going to take a level of trust in the version of you that stands on top of the mountain how to get to that clearing. And that version of you has the best intentions for you because you're one of the same. That version of you that stands on top of the mountain is full of universal love. It has it in abundance. There's no scarcity or lack at that level. At that level of awareness, there's more than enough. So they want to guide you through the difficult woods to that clearing. And the version of you that's down in the woods, think of yourself now. You can envision a version of you that is high, up in the sky above yourself, similar to that mountain. Connect to that version of you and have the intention of receiving the messages that it has for you. And if you are open to receiving it, just say yes. And once you've said yes, allow that higher version of you, almost like a torch, if they had a powerful torch that they could shine down from the top of the mountain, down onto the foot of the ground where you're walking, that array of warm, pure love, coloured as bright and warm as you can imagine, white light coming down on you, over your head, into your head and into your body, down through your head, into your neck, down through your chest, down through your arms, through your hands, down your stomach, over your hips and down your thighs and down your legs, and down through your feet, down through the soil, into the earth, right to the center of God. You belong there, anchored in. Now there's an energy that comes back up from the earth, securing you, letting you know you're part of this earth. So you are anchored in from the bottom and up from the top. So it's going to take a level of knowing that that higher version of you can get you to that cleared area. So today we talked about low self-esteem and how tricky and troubling it can be. There's a lack of self-worth, and we want to replace that today with a knowledge of your worth. So keep breathing deeply. Research has shown that our heart communicates more to the brain than the brain does to the heart. So that means when we have deep wounds and painful events happen in our life, emotions can affect our heart, and then our heart can give that information to the brain, and the brain can take these neural pathways and have them wired, so to speak, to think that, to expect bad things or to assume the worst, when actually there's a way to work through all of this and build a future that you would like for yourself. The times where we felt less than, not worthy, overlooked, deserving nothing but bad things because of a thought that you think that you yourself would be a bad person. This isn't true. There's many things in life that we believe to be true that after careful examination turns out it can't possibly be true. Finding yourself to listening to something like this, perhaps there's a sense that your higher being wanted to direct you to a place where you could get rid of these lower vibrations and feel lighter, so you can elevate and find yourself to that clearing. So think of those obstacles that the version of you would have in the woods. And we're going to go for a walk, but this time we're going to listen to a direction from the higher version of you. And just picture in your mind's eye being navigated through the obstacles, over and around them, and knowing that there's a version of you that can see there's an open clearing. And the path doesn't have to be as treacherous as it has been. We're leaving that past behind. Keep breathing. That higher version of you wants you to believe in yourself so you can achieve your life's goals. You'll be able to do it when you believe in yourself. Believing in yourself gives you the opportunity to vibrate at that level, which will attract in the things that you need to get to your goals. Keep going through the journey. Picture yourself making it out. And you can see through the woods an opening, and you're now stepping out into a clearing area. It's clear. What would you put there? Perhaps there's animals, running water, open sky. You've made it through that part. Let's call that woods the woods of low self-esteem. And now you've walked into an open clearing of self-worth. You deserve to be there. Take in the grand view. Know that you are worthy for being there. This is your destiny. And you are not doing it alone. There's a higher version of you guiding you the whole way. We want to give thanks to the difficult woods that you've gone past, because you've now learned things from it. But we don't need to go back there anymore. Almost like when you have something on your phone that's blocking up space, we can press delete. It doesn't serve you anymore. So let's delete that, take a step forward into the new future. Welcome in the abundance of a new version of you. And let's say our appreciation to our higher self for guiding us to that place. Now continue to breathe in and breathe out. You invested time in yourself today. So well done for knowing that you're worth it. Thank you for your time. If there was something in today's episode you feel would benefit another person, please share it and consider coming back for more